Hi there, guys. I am reading. We took off on her own 2 feet. Rebecca spent her first night at the house, and she just got up and started getting ready for the next day. She could see the house better now that it was day. Wood floors stretched down hallways and across large rooms filled with soft couches and a big table with 10 chairs. The kitchen gleamed white and silver and clean. "Good morning," said Meredith and Clay. They were sitting on stools eating. "Hello," said Rebecca, practicing her English word. Elena set her down and picked up a framed picture. Rebecca's heart leapt from like a baby goat when she saw that it was her family, a picture that her and Medea had worn their matching dresses. Elena pointed at Rebecca in the picture and said, "Rebecca," then pointed at Medea and asked again, "What's her name?" Rebecca swung her arm up to the picture and pointed to Medea. "Medeatrice," she said. It was Medea's full name, the one Mama used when she was introducing Medea to strangers. Elena said it all wrong. Rebecca giggled and repeated her name, "Medeatrice." She waited until Elena got it right before she pointed to each of her other sisters and her older brothers, saying each of their names slowly and carefully. It felt good being the one who knew how to say the words right. Suddenly, 2 dogs scampered into the kitchen, both white and hairy with nails that clicked on the wooden floor. Rebecca hid behind Elena, clutching her shirt. Elena reached around and picked her up as Clay and Benji hurried over to get the dogs. Clay held his dog belly up, rubbing her pink spotted skin. She looked like a little hairy baby. These were not like the wild dogs of Rwanda. "This is Molly," said Clay, looking at the dog in his arms. "That's Maggie," he said, nudging his chin at the dog Benji was holding. Rebecca shimmied out of Elena's arms and swung a hand up to scratch behind Molly's ears. Molly licked her hand with a warm, smooth, pink tongue. "Molly!" Rebecca shrieked and then laughed. Meredith went to the kitchen and turned a dial. A flame came up out of a hole, and she set a pan on top of it. There were 5 other holes, enough room for 6 cooking pots in all. A package of eggs was sitting on the counter in a bowl with mangoes and bananas and other fruit she had never seen before. Rebecca's stomach rumbled. "Do you want a piece of fruit?" asked Clay, pushing the bowl toward her. Rebecca reached for a small yellow fruit. "A lemon? You don't want a lemon. It's sour." Clay made a funny face and Rebecca laughed, but she still grabbed the lemon. She had never tried this fruit, but she loved the color, bright as the petals of a sunflower in Rwanda. "Okay," said Clay, "if you say so." He got a knife, cut the fruit in half, and handed her a piece. She dug her front teeth into the juicy flesh, and her eyes immediately watered. She dug her teeth in deeper, scraping the insides of the thick skin and raking the sour fruit into her mouth. She would be brave and strong and eat this strange fruit. After all, chance comes once. She wanted to experience as much as she could, in case the doctor said they couldn't help and she was sent home soon. But the fruit made her eyes water and her lips pucker. Once was enough. She would never do that again. She tried to take a bite of the thick skin, but decided it was like the outside of an avocado, too tough to eat. "Wow," said Clay when she handed him the empty yellow fruit. "I'm impressed." He said, "He's proud of you," said Anna as she came in with Danny. Rebecca smiled at Clay and bent down to rub Danny's head. He looked up at her and then started crawling as they all sat down for breakfast. Clay brought her a plate filled with eggs and mango cut into slices. She ate everything, and when Clay gave her more eggs, she ate them too. Her stomach felt round and full in a way it seldom felt at home. She leaned back in her chair and looked around the room. "Danny!" she yelled. He was stuck in a hole in the wall. "Oh no, he's trying to go through the dog door," said Meredith. Anna laughed and got up from a table to get him. Rebecca got up too. She could investigate this hole. "It's a little door just for the dogs," explained Anna. Next to it was a big door that led into the backyard. She swung her arms and shrugged her shoulder just right so that her hand landed on the doorknob. Then she leaned forward, pushed the handle down, and stepped outside. Elena followed her. "Rebecca, hold on. Let's put on your shoes," called Meredith. She sat down on the tile porch, and Meredith knelt beside her. She reached out and touched one of Rebecca's curled feet, looking closely at the callus on top, rough as an elephant's hide. Rebecca watched Meredith's face closely to see if there was disgust, but all she saw was curiosity. Rebecca showed Meredith how to wrap her laces just right around her ankles and tie them tight. Then she stood up and Elena took her hand. They walked across the grass, past what looked like a giant fishing net stretched tight on a metal frame to a sandy beach on the water's edge. It was beautiful and quiet in the shade of the giant trees until she heard a deep roar. A boat sped around the bend, slicing through the water and sending a spray of droplets in the big arc. Rebecca lurched across the grass as she hurried back toward the house, her heart beating fast. "Rebecca, it's okay," said Elena, but Rebecca didn't stop until she was inside. America was filled with strange and unfamiliar things, dogs and lemons and boats. All she wanted at that moment was her own, home and her own family. She walked to the picture of her family, tipped it forward, and kissed her mother's face. The glass felt cool on her lips, nothing like her mother's warm, salty skin. "Medea, there are things called crayons. They are smooth like chalk, waxy like a candle, and they leave a colorful streak on paper. There are things called trampolines, like a fishing net, stretched tight, but not for fish, for jumping and running around the edge and sometimes falling and learning new words like ouchie. There are things called lemons that make my eyes water. There are things called dog doors, holes in the wall. It makes my head swim. So much new words, new people, new things, but I'm still the same old Rebecca." On her third morning in Austin, Rebecca went to see the doctor. She packed some toys in her backpack and folded up a tiny stroller that looked like Danny's but smaller. It was the perfect size for her, the stuffed bear in her backpack. She noticed that her suitcase stayed in Elena's room. Maybe that meant she wouldn't be left with the doctors at the clinic. Maybe she'd come back with the Davises. "This appointment is very important," Anna explained in the car. "The doctor will decide whether or not he can help you." Rebecca stared out the window and worried. What if the doctor said he couldn't help? What if he sent her home with her feet still curled? When they got to the doctor's office, Clay lifted her out of the car, and she hurried up the hot sidewalk, pushing her stuffed bear in the tiny stroller. Before she got to the sliding glass doors, they whooshed open and cold air spilled out of the building. Clay, Meredith, Natalie, Anna, and Rebecca all hurried inside, out of the sun. Danny was at home with Elena and the boys. While Meredith went to talk to someone at the desk, Rebecca found a seat in the waiting room. There was a TV playing cartoons, but she didn't understand any of the words. She looked around at all the other kids waiting on for appointments. Some were in wheelchairs. One boy couldn't hold up his head. A long string of drool dripped from his chin. Rebecca stared at the shimmering thread of spit. It reminded her of Papa's fishing line, and the thought of Papa made her stomach flip. "Rebecca, ooey, don't see," some lady was trying to say, and a woman in blue pants and a skirt holding a clipboard was trying to say her name. "That must be you," said Meredith. She stood up and held out her hand. Rebecca swung her arm up to grab it. It was time. "I'll be taking Rebecca's temperature and blood pressure and weight," the woman said as they followed her to the small room. She put a hand on Rebecca's arm that squeezed. Why was it squeezing? Would it stop? Her heart raced as she stared at Anna, wishing she'd explain, but she was talking to Meredith. The woman in blue smiled and took off the band. Then she asked Rebecca to stand on a metal platform. It was cold on the tops of her feet and hard to balance. Red numbers blinked on the little screen, and the lady wrote them down. "Now sit here, please, and I'll take your temperature." Alrighty, guys, we're going to stop. We'll read more the next time. Bye.